Hi, this is an interview with Andrew Nesbitt, and I'm asking him for MyKidsy.com about his, coding experience, his inventions, and especially about the Code Dojo workshop that was a lot of fun for children today. Can you please tell us about yourself and what you've been doing and what you're going to do in the future?
Yeah, so I'm a programmer by trade, and I also have a history in robotics, as I learned that at university, but found it pretty dry, so I didn't really do anything with it and got into the web. And then about a year ago, got into actually kind of robotics again, but from completely the opposite side. Rather than learning all of the theory and everything, it's just about programming with web technologies, robots, and in particular these flying robots called quadcopters, and using a particular technology which is called Node.js to allow you to use JavaScript to control robots, which is really lowering the barrier to entry to getting into robotics. And I've been lucky enough to get companies to sponsor a number of these quadcopters and then take them around the country, basically introducing people to them and spending a day coding different pieces of software that can control the drones, make the quadcopters fly around the room, or even detect people's faces and follow them, and all kinds of different interesting creative ways of actually kind of autonomously controlling these robots.
Great. Can you tell us your experience with children, why you think, because today was a children's event, why you think it's really interesting to introduce children at an early age into the whole idea of coding and robotics?
Yeah, so today's the first event that I've done with kids with the quadcopters. And Code Dojo is the perfect place to do it because it's like a big kind of playground where you actually learn stuff as well. They'd already done, some of the kids had already played with JavaScript, so they had a little bit of knowledge about what they were doing already. Other kids were just kind of learning, and the speed that they pick things up is orders of magnitude faster than adults, and so you can give them a taster of something and then watch them just like eat it up completely and start doing things that you couldn't possibly imagine. And they're so much more creative, and their brains are so much more kind of open to new ideas that when you introduce them to a new technology, they just take to it like a duck to water. And today we saw people doing all kinds of really interesting things, and like actually having a physical output to code that they write, rather than just something on a screen. They're actually making things physically move around the room.
How do you think this kind of experience is different from what is being introduced to schools and going to classrooms and teaching children how to code? Because there's a quite different approach, I think, much more fun, less pressure on education. How would you see that difference?
It's a lot more kind of, there's a physical output to the stuff that you do. It's still quite complicated, and there's still a lot to learn, and we really only had an introduction today. But when you actually write a line of code and you see something happen in the real world, like you can write a line of simple JavaScript which can make a robot take off and spin around in the room that you're in and then flip in the air, that's so much more kind of engaging, and suddenly something, your computer just had an effect on the real world. Whereas if you're just writing something in a computer lab and you're doing the same as everyone else, it's not quite as exciting, and it's not the kind of thing that you can get really excited about until you realize the implications of it. Whereas this is almost instantaneous feedback of what you've done.
So would you agree to see these kind of events happening much more often in, not just in London, but all around, every city?
Yeah, I've been speaking to a school in Bristol about actually getting a kind of a class or part of the curriculum as being robotics, because there is some regulation, I'm not sure, or not regulation, but some people are trying to get some amount of robotics into schools. This would be a great lesson for them to kind of get an idea of how they can work with that. And the quadcopters are a little bit dangerous probably to get through all of the red tape, but there are robots with wheels that would drive around on your desk in a very similar fashion and would be a lot less dangerous and probably break a lot less. that would be a great way to get kids engaged in coding.
So you think that robotics could be a very nice entryway for all kinds of coding later on, and not even if you want to be a specialist in robotics, but in completely different areas, as we see that, the tech world is entering into every area and every aspect of life. Do you see that as a nice entryway to, to kind of introduce children in a very engaging way where they can relate to?
Yeah, definitely. So when you're working with these quadcopters, you instantly run into problems or limitations, and you get around it by coding and using different types of technology. Often web technologies get involved because it's so easy to plug them into the quadcopter, so you're able to show the result in a web page or make some controls sent from over the internet, plug in an Xbox controller, and then you're combining many different broad arrays of technology to each one. You can learn, you can kind of dive in and learn loads about it, or you can just kind of use it and get the job done and then move on to something that you find more interesting.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Maybe just the last, thing that you wish to see. I mean, we at MyKidsy really want to get much more classes and events like this happening in London on a much more regular basis, and hope to find, very ambitious and passionate people like you, much more to teach children all over about robotics and coding in general.
Great.
Thank you very much for
Cheers.
the interview.
Thanks.